Throwback episode. I mean, not a ton, but here's the thing. Alexis, I've been living in season 3, episode 12, due to editing in the time machine. And our guest star in that episode is Melina Govich, who famously had an arc on Law and Order, and it shows up, in all these like law enforcement and fire department shows, and we talked about her a little bit. In this episode, they name check that actress.
like Melina Govich specifically.
Yes.
It's kind of a beautiful back and forth where Sean's like, oh yeah, he likes headstrong and hot in a female DA detective on a Law and Order sort of way. And then they just start naming off women, and it's so funny.
Gus says Melina Govich. Sean says
Angie Harmon.
Gus says Mariska Hargitay.
And then they start talking a little bit more, and then finally Gus goes, Katie Irby, what?
Oh man, it's kind of random when he does it. It's just like he actually, in the moment, randomly thought of another actress's name.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
It's kind of beautiful. And I was re-listening to 12 today, right after I had finished prepping my notes for today, and I was like, oh, that's a super fun fact.
Yeah, I almost did like an auditory double take when I was watching this episode for notes, because I've been living in episode 12 of season 3 for quite some time, like longer than necessary, probably.
Yeah, I've been doing the same with episode 13, so don't feel badly.
This is where we are in our journey.
Yeah. But new season, new game, and are you ready to start the show?
It's showtime.
This is
To the Blueberry!
I am Alexis, and I am a real life Gus.
I'm Kaylee, and I'm a real life Sean.
And this is a Psych Rewatch podcast because Kay and I decided we needed a good reason to talk to one another once a week, and we love the show Psych.
Ooh, it's turned out wonderfully. What are we watching this week, Alexis?
Season 4, episode 2, He Did.
He Did.
Which I think we actually referenced in the last episode.
We definitely did at the end.
But they never say he dead in this episode.
No, they say he's dead.
Yeah.
But, like, nobody ever gets sassy. Like, nobody ever makes light of it.
It's kind of sad. But we start in 1989, and little baby Sean comes down the steps because he's feeling sick.
Yeah, he's got, like, an ice pack or a hot water bottle held to his head, and he's got a thermometer in his house. And he's like, I don't feel so good.
Henry's like, oh, let me check it out. And he kind of feels his face and his forehead, and then he looks at the thermometer, which reads 150 degrees Fahrenheit.
He was actually concerned at first. I was like, oh yeah, he's being like actual dad mode. Good on you, Corbin. And he goes, wow, yeah, you're not doing so hot. And Sean's like, yeah, I really don't think I can go to Jimmy Peebles' house tonight. You should call and cancel.
Oh, I will, and right after that, I'll call the coroner.
What?
You're dying with a temperature of 150 degrees. I give you 5-10 minutes tops.
And so he kind of is like, what's really going on here? Why do you want to flake out on tonight?
I love Henry's reaction of, your first problem was the 150 degree temperature. Next time, try putting it in a hot sandwich or behind the television.
Yeah, like, he's always like, lie better. Like, this isn't even a challenge for me, kid.
Well, Sean doesn't want to go because the people at Jimmy's house eat weird food.
Also, well, he
they
says...
don't even eat meat.
Every time Sean gives a reason, Henry's got like a placating, like a dad answer. He's like, they're weird. He's like, everybody's a little bit weird. If we were all the same, it'd be boring. They eat weird food. All food is weird until you try it. They don't eat meat. He's like, you mean they're vegetarian? And baby Sean says,
I think they call it vegan?
Henry's face. And then I just read horror struck, but we hear like a disembodied female voice, and it's supposed to be Madeline. And she's like, Are you boys ready for some barbecue tofu?
And then Henry screams. Or no, Henry doesn't scream. Henry just starts coughing and goes, I think I've got that same thing that you've got, Sean.
And then they share this little smile.
It's cute.
Okay, I've got to stop right here. You can cut this out, or I can cut this out if I need to. But I had this conversation with Denim the other day, and I was like, wait a second. If tofu is just soybean curd, can you curd any bean? Or is there something remarkable about the edamame, compared to other beans? And then we were like, that's a really good question. Then we just sort of forgot about it. I looked it up. You can curd any bean.
Really?
Yes. So you can have bean curd, just not soybean curd.
Yeah, I was like, I'd rather have any bean curd than soybean curd.
Well, because soybean curd will literally damage you.
That's true. One of my many allergies.
So, a Southeast Asian one that is really common and popular is chickpea curd. Which, I mean, we do so much with the chickpea, the humble chickpea anyway. Why the heck not?
Yeah.
But I thought black bean is such a yummy, meat replacement as it is. I bet that would make a good one. So
I believe that.
I'm about to try it out. I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do, because I could get behind that. I've been trying to eat a little bit more, better proteins, so that would be a good call.
Nice and clean. Anyway, sorry.
All right, present day. The SBPD is out in, the woods or something, and they're packing everything up. They are getting ready to go on an adventure.
Oh, yeah, I wrote Pacific Northwest gearing up.
Sean and Gus come in, and we find out that Warren Clayton is missing. We last had contact with him around 7 a.m. And, of course, Gus knows who William Warren Clayton is because he's a hedge fund manager.
Oh, yeah. He's super impressive. He's a billionaire investor. Chief also thanks the boys for being there, and Sean says search and rescue is our middle name. But he's not being super snappy and sassy. He's just oh, yeah, of course we'd show up.
Chief Vic is hoping that Sean will pick something up psychically.
Yeah, because the private plane went down somewhere in these here hills.
Lassiter, in all of his familial love, screams something along the lines of, good luck, suckers, have fun walking, because they have ATVs.
Yeah, no chance of you finding this plane crash before we do.
This is a running joke in this episode, and I quite enjoy it. Sean goes, note to self, get some of those for the office.
This will come back. Let's see. And Gus is kind of yeah, how are we going to compete with that? But Sean's don't worry, buddy. We've got a secret opening. Ba-bam!
It is a map from Henry's Huntsman's Club. They make them themselves with special shortcuts and stuff that the government never knows about, and they'll use that to cover more ground on foot.
Yeah, so they're walking. The cinematography in this scene alone, it slays me. So they're walking through the woods. They keep hearing noises, and it's those are definitely bear noises. And then there's all these zoom cuts to their faces and looking around, and they just keep walking. And then
my favorite part about the bear is that they hear the quote bear, and they both pick up sticks. And then they start running, sticks. And they're hitting one another with the sticks to make sure that the other one gets eaten by the bear.
Yeah, a scientist, a park ranger fellow, just had to put out literal articles and interviews talking about how this is not actually a good way to avoid a bear attack.
You need to stay still. You need to make yourself very, very big and very, very loud.
If that doesn't work or it's a grizzly, tuck everything in and cover your neck and pray to God. That's really all you got.
I read this article about somebody who stifled a bear attack by singing show tunes. And I am I hope I have everything about me to sing show tunes at that bear if I ever come across one. I would love that.
You just got a belt defying gravity in your worst Broadway impression.
That's pretty easy for me, considering my singing voice. Okay, so the next sound they hear, they're that was metal, not a bear. And it's the plane.
The plane. Gus says he has no signal on his phone, but they rush down to the plane anyway. And the metal sound they heard is the pilot banging a stick that has come inside his window, trying to make noise so he can be found. And like they get into the plane, and they're like, "Hold on, hang in there," because he's alive. And Sean psychs out on a couple of things in the plane. We see a sign that says Wiswall projects or product something.
Yeah, I just know it doesn't say Griswold, although that's what I keep hearing throughout the episode.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely Wiswall.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of weird names. It's a very, like, almost, like, Welsh-inspired stuff going on in this episode, so we'll get there. He also psychs out on the altimeter, which we call an altimeter later on, and a little medallion for Saint Dwynwen, who is the patron saint of love in Wales.
Which is better than the patron saint of filthy lovers in the night.
Which also comes up.
So Warren, it is Warren Clayton, and he is just saying whatever he can, and he goes, "I need to make amends. I need to be a good father. Do you understand?"
And they're like, and then he goes, "Waterloo."
He's an ABBA fan.
And then the last thing we hear is, "Find out who killed me."
Gus thinks that he might be able to keep him alive and starts asking him about investments ideas, but he's dead.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's so... Okay, so we don't get the full picture of this man for quite some time, and just judging from his last words, you're like, oh no, like, he has so much regret, he has so much unfinished business, like, this is very sad and tragic. At the end of this episode, I feel differently. And
That's fair.
Yeah, and, like, I feel icky about feeling differently, but I do.
Okay, I'm intrigued to hear your side of the story.
Alright. We get the credits after this.
And then the brigade comes, and they essentially send Sean and Gus away because they have found everything that they needed to find for the SBPD. But as they are having their little walk away, Sean said, "Hey, we have a goal here. We need to complete his dying wish."
He's like, what if it was one of our dads who was found by a random white guy and a random black guy and expressed their dying wish to them? Especially if it concerned us, wouldn't you want those guys to try and get that message to us and complete that moment for them?
You think I'm a random black guy?
Come on, man.
They start kind of thinking about what the possibilities could have been. Maybe he was poisoned. Maybe someone was there and they parachuted out. And then Gus is like, or maybe...
Dude, it was not a bear.
I wasn't going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
At the SBPD, we are with Mrs. Clayton, whose first name I never get. I just call her MC the entire time.
I called her MC the whole time.
Yeah.
That's so funny because we get an MT later on.
Me too.
Yeah, so Mrs. Clayton is played by Christine Baranski, who
we all
know
in love from Mamma Mia, which makes that Waterloo reference earlier so much better.
And the fact that she has to say the word Waterloo here in a minute. But she's also from Jim Carrey's live-action The Grinch. Mm-hmm. And I like to call her, like, her type is a rich mommy. Because Rich Daddy has bit the dust already in this episode, so we're here with Rich Mommy the whole time. And mommy, I love her so much.
Yeah,
like
she just has something about her.
She can do anything, especially next to Meryl Streep. I'm just like, dream team. Like, no hate to Imelda Staunton, but the two tall ladies have my heart.
From her perspective, it does not take time to solve a murder. It takes money. Only
money. Have you even bothered pulling satellite images of before the plane went down? Have you done any weather simulations?
We have all available resources on the job.
Sean says, almost all.
he starts to receive a transmission, but Mrs. Clayton is very, very skeptical.
Well,
So
it's more of a
Juliet
voicemail, really. Sort of a status update, perhaps a Twitter.
Do you mean a tweet?
I will never say that.
Juliet stands in and tries to vouch for Sean and Gus, and then in comes Buzz to save the day. And he's like, he knew everything about the man. He knew how he was sitting. He knew what he looked like, what he was wearing. He even knew what cologne he was wearing. Gus goes, I knew what cologne. You're right, he does.
And then Sean says, does Waterloo mean anything to you?
She is shocked.
Shook it. She goes, I'm actually really quite shocked. You just can't tell because of years of Botox use.
Waterloo is the 18th hole at their country club, and he had already told her to spread his ashes there once he dies.
Strange. She says, very well, you shall solve the mystery.
I no longer need the police department. I am gonna hire you directly. Just tell me what you need.
Red vines.
A case of red vines, individually wrapped. 2, mini fridge filled with cactus cooler.
Is that a Capri Sun reference?
I don't know what a cactus cooler is.
I thought it was a Capri Sun flavor, but I'm not sure.
That's funny. He also asks for a ShamWow.
Yeah. Gus sort of sidles over to put in his 2 cents, and then Sean says, oh, well, MC tells him, you are no longer within the realm of the governmental budget that you've become accustomed to. Really, what do you need to accomplish this?
Sean needs to become Warren Clayton. He needs to sit where he sat and feel what he felt. I may have taken that from a different episode. I don't know if he really says that in this episode.
No, he totally does.
Okay. They are officially invited to the estate for dinner, and she will be sending a car.
Estate?
Boys are pumped. And she gets ready to leave, and she goes, the door. And they're like, the door.
The door!
Oh, yes. And then they have to open it for her.
This is not the last time.
This part of this scene is quite wonderful. Sean and Gus fist bump. And then Buzz asks for a fist bump from Sean. And Sean doesn't exactly give him a fist bump. He kind of slaps him on the arm and then slaps him on the butt. It's kind of beautiful.
Are we in?
We're in the psych office.
Abigail, story of Clayton, she wants to meet Henry.
Yes. So she wants to meet him, but Sean is kind of against it because he knows her and she'll try to fix everything.
That's not great. She goes, all right, no problem. No more pressure from me. And he's like, you know what? You already know everything anyway. I'm a simple man.
In comes the driver. The car is here to take you to the Clayton estate.
Abigail's face.
Especially because Sean's reaction is, thank you, my good man.
And they both just sort of stand up and brush their shoulders off and get ready to leave. So, I have a couple of things about this estate. As we go through, the boys are super impressed, and they're supposed to be. It's in character. They get walked into the room by this maid whose name do we ever find it out?
Rosa.
Okay. So she tells them that dinner will be served shortly, and then she leaves. And I just wrote, ugly eye doctor chairs and carpet. The hideous concentric circle geometric nonsense of the accent chair and the rug on the floor. Everything looks so cheap and Pier 1 imports, and the rooms are small, and I'm like, okay, this might be a big house, but it is giving 2000s McMansion. I'm not saying rich people aren't tacky. I'm saying billionaires hire someone so they don't look tacky.
Yeah, that's fair. But producers of television shows on the USA Network probably don't.
They probably shouldn't.
When they are walking in, Sean immediately starts to check out all of the pictures of the family that's on the mantle. And at the very end of the pictures, there is a little tiny glass pineapple.
I didn't see that at all.
Yeah. And a little glass pineapple right there at the end.
Oh, my pineapple comes later.
I have that pineapple too, and here's the thing. I didn't cheat this time. I actually found them both.
So after the fact, I did find it because it's very obvious, but after the fact when I was reading the fun facts on IMDb, I only saw the one listed, the one that I found. And I didn't, even, suspect that I had missed one along the way.
Yeah, there's a little tiny one. It's very cute. In fact, it's something I think I would enjoy. Okay, so glass. Oh, Sean feels like this is kind of like a museum that's full of priceless artifacts, but only you're not allowed to touch those ones or play with anything.
I mean,
and then
in our museum episode, he definitely was touching and playing with all the things there, so this feels very different.
He was saying that you can't touch and play with the things at the house.
No.
Which he immediately does.
And breaks
it.
Yes.
And then the entire time, Gus is very like Kermit the Frog pouring himself a glass of water and just like drinking it, and never notices that Sean broke the piece of priceless artifact and then put it back together.
Well, Gus is also swishing the water around like it's not just water that he's poured himself. MC comes in and she's like, "So sorry to have kept you waiting. I was packing away some things, submitting memories of me and Clay. That's what I called him."
Gus, in true Gus fashion, immediately notices that she has a very fancy tennis racket.
"Oh, it was my birthday gift last year. He got me lessons with Malavian? Somebody? Williams?
Somebody famous who was maybe in Wimbledon, but she doesn't really care about that."
She's like, "Yes, no, I don't know, but he's a fabulous teacher and never miss a lesson."
It is officially dinner time, and it's a good thing because they really need help. Our son is beside himself about this accident.
I just wrote, slacker done, don't care.
He's like 22 years old. He's sitting at the table on his phone. Mrs. Clayton refers to herself and her husband as Mommy and Papa when speaking to him. And Sean, without missing a beat, said, "Oh, Garvin. It's very Heather's, isn't it?"
And then he's like, "Do you go by Gar? Vin? Garv?" And the guy's like, yeah, I get it. Even though I was like 0 when that movie came out.
Gus does another very Gus thing of getting out his phone. But Sean quickly tells him to stop trying to be cool.
"I have peeps, Sean."
You have 2 peeps, and one of them is made out of marshmallow.
So, Sean brings up whether or not they're going to meet the girl from the photos and all the family photos. And MC tells him that is Nina, which is an interesting name, their daughter who is no longer with them.
Did you spell it 9A in your notes?
No, because my captions spelled it N-Y-N-A.
Nina. That's what I went with. Yeah, she's no longer with us. Mrs. Clayton wants Sean to have some sort of revolution about what happened.
"He will have a revelation now, everyone. I need to pick up some more of the vibrations, and it doesn't really work like on a cue." Oh, and Sean says, "I must tap into his aurora." This gets him a side eye.
I happen to have a smoking jacket and sleep in down sheets because I don't want that to mess with me while I'm trying to psych into everything tonight when I sleep here. Poser. And then Gus starts to cough.
Asthma.
Yeah, he's allergic to rich white people.
I mean, fair.
Gus says yes to that.
Fair.
That's hilarious. Okay, hold on. I want to go back to Smoking Jacket real fast. Is that a reference to the Ghosts episode where Sean is wearing Gus's boss's
Of course it is.
smoking jacket?
Oh, was it his robe or something? His pajamas? He was wearing something. He even put it back on under his clothes.
And it became an attaché.
And he was like, is that an ascot?
Ascot.
Attaché.
Attaché's a briefcase. Where did we land with attaché? Pouch? Okay, that was Another episode. That was the Tin Can episode. I have discovered I don't remember what these episodes are named, actually. But I do remember what we called them, yeah.
Yes.
Mrs. Clayton is very, very angry that Sean cannot just psychically figure this all out.
I pay for results. I expect immediate results.
She needs closure before they read the will this weekend.
That's not sus or anything. So Sean forces himself to have a little psych out. And we go back to...
2 channels are clearing up.
The very fancy racket.
It's not about Clayton. It's about Mrs. Clayton. And she has not been playing tennis, but you have been playing with balls.
Ooh.
That line.
MC was like, this is not about me. Gar, who we now refer to as Gar is like, ew, is that why you were always practicing at night? And wearing all these sexy tennis outfits?
I'm sorry, Kaylee. I don't care what you're talking about when you're referring to your mother, but I don't feel comfortable with him calling her outfit sexy.
Yeah, no, like, if he was a daughter, it would feel different. But the edifice of it all is kind of ick.
She said, even if I was having an affair, it's because Warren and I were in a loveless marriage.
So it wasn't even my fault. And then Rosa, our maid, I forget what she says.
Where I come from, we don't speak ill of the dead.
Oh, MC was like, basically, I do what I want. But then Sean zeroes in on the necklace that Rosa the maid is wearing, and it is Saint Dwayne, the patron saint of dirty, filthy livers in the night.
We do see that Rosa was having an affair with Clayton. But Mrs. Clayton was like, listen, things were getting better right before he died. Yes, we were still having affairs and whatever, but okay, it was getting better.
He was trying to be the man that I once loved.
Sean and Gus have a little aside, and one of them says, now we see why Warren Clayton thought he was murdered.
Gus says, these people are crazy as hell.
Sean was like, Mrs. Clayton asked them to use their discretion.
That may be difficult.
These family secrets.
Yeah, that might be difficult once I prove that one of you is responsible for his murder.
The very next scene are the boys running out of the house, being followed by barks. We never see dogs.
No, but this is after, like, we get this very pointed, like, oh, really? And, like, eyebrow raise from Mrs. Clayton.
So here's the thing.
They're also
running out of the house,
carrying goodie bags.
That's what I was about to say.
I was gonna check with you to see if I was seeing it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they packed up their doggy bags for them, and then they set the dogs after them.
That's the implication.
Yeah. I don't think it's meant to be. I don't think it's meant to make sense. I think it's meant to be funny.
It's funny. It's a gag they will use again because it's funny. Yeah. So we're at the SBPD. Lassie and Chief are in Chief's office, and Sean waltzes in, and Lassie's like, "Oh, did you get fired already?"
Lassie, looking classy and jangly. And Chief, I don't say this enough, but you have exquisite teeth.
And yeah, they're like, "So tell us, why are you back here? Aren't you?"
Oh, the Chief Vic shade is real right now.
Oh yeah, talking about the budget. Woo.
Lassie's like, listen, we have the accident report. It's obviously an accident. He was coming in too quickly and ascended too rapidly. And Sean psychs out on the times of the flights. Vic is like, if you're gonna make these presumptions that he was murdered, I need evidence.
So Sean does his little psych out. He's like, well, I'm sensing that he was interested in making amends, but there was so much backbiting, jealousies.
And front biting.
And front biting. There's a skeleton in the closet.
Chief Vic is like, all right, Lassiter, you might as well follow up on this infidelity lead. And then I got you, it's not I've got you on a short leash, but it's I expect results, Spencer. He said, what time should I expect the car?
And everybody just leaves him in the office. We missed the part where they had a little bit of a banter moment about him being fired and him being like, we have parted ways, but maybe I was getting too close. And Lassie says, maybe you were acting like an obnoxious little twerp. And Sean says, glad to see that the term twerp has survived the millennium. Sorry, that was like one of my favorite little exchanges that I wrote down some of.
I totally agree.
Sorry, we keep yawning at each other.
They are at the country club, and Gus is like, I should be living like this. What went wrong?
I just wrote weird club talk. And then they walk up to a table that has lots of muffins and a whole sliced
pineapple. While they're having their weird club talk, Sean is literally stealing the muffins and putting them in his pockets.
His very large pockets. It doesn't even look like his muffins are getting crushed. I'm very proud of him.
Yeah.
I need to make muffins.
In comes Mrs. C, and she's like, well, I see they've given you access, but no one here is going to talk to you. Oh, no. No. They said, in comes Mrs. C, and Sean says, yes, we've been given access, and we will find out what you've been hiding.
This is a police matter now. And Mrs. C says, we're not hiding anything. We don't hide anything, except for money, illegitimate children, and of course the fact that we're Jewish. Which is a Caddyshack reference.
It is. They have another the door moment.
The door!
And then outside, Mrs. C is like, good luck getting them to talk to you. Bye.
Like, you don't belong here, peasant. I love that on her. I just love it. She's the only one allowed to do it. Well,
she plays it so well.
Meryl could do it. Meryl did it in Devil Wears Prada. But either one of them, they're fine.
Sean starts to look around and he immediately notices a name tag on one of the golf players' bags, and it's Winsler. Wiswall, not Griswold, right?
Wiswall.
And then he's like, ooh, I got a plan.
Let me guess. You've got a loosely formed idea that doesn't work on paper, but ultimately proves to be reasonably successful.
Sean just smiles, and they walk into the pro shop. Whilst they are out golfing, they are both wearing striped shirts.
Oh, I did not notice in this scene. I noticed later. I don't know what I wrote. I have no idea what I wrote.
The people golfing with them are like, oh, so how long have you guys been members? And they said, oh, we're just trial members. We're only members of the most exclusive clubs.
They're like, yeah, but ever since we've been here, everyone's been talking about Clayton.
He's the only one who's showing a positive return during the recession, and that's why they keep him around.
Yes, despite some of his more eccentric behavior. I couldn't decide if I was going to say eccentricities or eccentric behavior. Let's go with eccentric behavior.
Okay.
Yeah, something about how he knew how to finagle hedge funds better than anybody else.
Then they decide that they're going to play for, I don't know, $1,000 a hole.
And Sean's like, ooh, do you guys bet often?
No, sometimes we actually play for high stakes.
And Sean psychs out to the Wiswall sign decal thing inside of the plane that crashed, and he's like, I'm sensing sometimes you play for extremely high stakes. Like private planes?
Yes, we find out that Wiswell did lose the plane in a bet. And before you guess anything, I was in Europe when the plane crashed.
He's like, yeah. And he said he was going to use it for traveling with his family. He even got a private hangar down at the airport.
And then we come to the conclusion that everybody in the family had access to the plane.
And I just wrote, family sabotage!
We are in a walk-in talk, and Sean's like, we need to check out that hangar.
Gus is like, shouldn't you check in with Abigail?
This relationship needs to show that you are going on. You need to be relationship Sean. Or relationship Sean needs to set up his game.
Yeah, he says you can't be your usual lackadaisical self. Sean's like, there is no relationship Sean or single Sean. There is only regular Sean and Malibu Sean. You know that.
Sean gives in and ultimately calls her. And whilst on the phone, here's Henry in the background.
Also, she is shocked that he's calling, so she was not expecting this check-in. Yeah, so interesting. I did say I wasn't going to pressure you, so I just sort of set it up myself and made it happen. Also, we're sort of talking about all three of us getting together for dinner sometime soon.
Sean's just like, okay, whatever, I'm in. Henry's playing it up in the background. At one point, he screams, "Hey, Abigail, do you want to see how far I can spit?"
Because Sean was like, oh god, did he fire a weapon? Did he bait a hook?
At the hangar, Gus is like, dude, we can't just walk in here. What are we gonna do?
Oh yeah, Gus says, what are we gonna say? And Sean says, Gus, don't be both principal and interest. I've got a brilliant cover plan.
That plan is that Gus is taking a private flight lesson.
Yeah, Sean says, sir, we're here for the 2:00 appointment. And he goes, is one of you guys Gus?
Why do I always have to be the distraction?
Yeah, because apparently he's getting a flight lesson?
Gus is going to take the flight lesson and then let Sean know everything he learns about a plane while Sean snoops around.
Yeah, and Gus says, what are you even looking for? And Sean's like, I'll know it when I see it. Ooh, like that pebble. Definitely not that.
Gus is still freaking out, and Sean goes, don't worry, flying is just like driving a car.
It's not actually like that at all.
He has to sign like 12 waivers as he's going up in the plane. Gus is not happy.
No. And Sean is psyching out on the landed plane and how the altimeter says 0.
So then he does some classic sneaking around and ultimately finds a flight log. And we notice that there's a fueling stop that wasn't on the flight plan that the SBPD had.
So we go to the plane where the guy is getting out of the plane and Gus is like, I'm ready for my flight lesson now. And he's like, you just had it. We're landed. You're all good. I'm ready for my flight lesson now.
Sean asks the pilot how long it usually takes to refuel a 2-engine plane.
20, 30 minutes.
Definitely not 4 hours.
So Sean goes, dude, there was a 4-hour stop that wasn't logged in the flight plan.
In Bakersfield.
So this was giving me, I just watched a Columbo starring Johnny Cash.
Ooh.
And I feel like, if I'm not misremembering, Bakersfield played a really big part in it as a place to fly a plane from. It's like a whole thing. It's like a really twisted murder setup. Johnny Cash is a bad guy, but he gets to sing a lot in the episode, so that's fine. And yeah, it's all about flying from Bakersfield. Of course, Columbo is an LA detective, but we're in Santa Barbara, so moving on.
Sean's making phone calls and finally talks to Wade at the car service, who remembers picking him up and taking him to the airport.
Clayton, that is.
Gus, note to self, remember 1600 Joshua Lane.
You can't say note to self and expect me to take note of it. It's literally a note to self.
And in that moment, Sean was feeling alone.
You also can't narrate for yourself, Sean.
All right, to 1313 Mockingbird Lane.
That is the Munsters address.
Thanks, note to self.
So, we get a little bit of, talking over watching the Blueberry Drive, but at one point when the Blueberry is making a right-hand turn, it's suddenly a Yaris instead of an Echo.
That is fascinating.
And, I noticed it, and I was like, that doesn't say Echo. And then I saw it listed as a fun fact on IMDb. And I was like, I'll take that.
I love that. They are pulling up to a non-profit environmental group that is run by a Mrs. Thomas. We get a super great, introduction of Sean, followed by, this is my associate, Jazz Hands.
This place is called the Great Green Hope. And someone walks by asking about propositions or appraisal or something, and they go, "Are you Mrs. Thomas? And can we ask you some questions about Warren Clayton?"
She definitely knows who Warren Clayton is, and so she takes him into her office, and they start to talk about his death.
Yeah, we're investigating his death, possible murder.
Wow, that's karma for you. You guys believe in karma, don't you?
Yes, but only because we are karma chameleons.
We come and go.
Culture Club!
She doesn't find that funny, by the way.
No. So, Sean gets into some psych nonsense.
He kind of senses that Clayton was there, and that maybe he was also in the seat that Gus currently is in. And she was like, yes, he was here. They talked business, and then he left.
Yeah, too bad your feelings and the things you pick up on don't have more to do with protecting the environment. He's sitting there with like 6 bottles of water beside his chair. When did those get there?
He always forgets that which one's his, so he just gets a new one each time. Plus, he likes the clicking sound they make.
He tries to open one and it doesn't make the satisfying clicking.
So then he has to open another.
So Gus is like, I didn't think Clayton was the environmental type.
Oh, he's not. They have been at odds ever since she started the company.
With her husband, Charles.
Let's just say that Clay wanted an endorsement on a business venture that I did not approve of. But I'm used to his temper.
I'm used to Clay's temper. Sean stands up and wants to like spit out his gum or something, and he finds an entire sheet of paper and puts it in there, and he's like crumpling it up. And then I forget what he says, like he sort of whispers something when he does like the toss like a basketball into the waste paper basket. But Gus is like, dude, you're wasting paper. So this keeps coming up in the scene.
In comes her husband, who we saw earlier in a picture, and his name is Charles. And he's just carrying all of the shredding, and while he's trying to introduce himself, she quickly cuts him off. And
did you remember to schedule that lunch with Senator so-and-so?
He's like, oh yeah, bye, and then he just immediately leaves.
And Sean's like, yeah, that was sus.
As they're leaving, he attempts to recycle an old Snickers in the paper recycling.
You can't recycle food, Sean.
Oh, and then he picks it up, it has shreddings all over it, and he said, well, now I kind of want to eat it.
So Sean's like, yeah, it was suspicious, and Gus says, yeah, that subject changed when her husband came in, and Sean says, yeah, and she slipped and called him Clay. She's definitely more or less another mistress of his.
This is where plus she's his type, the strong, hot in a female DA or detective from Law and Order sort of way.
Mm-hmm. So Sean's like, okay, if Clayton was trying to reconcile with his wife, but Miss Green Jeans over here was not happy about that gives her motive.
They're ready to call it, but they go to the house where the will is being read. And Mrs. C is like, why are you still doing this? And
she's like, are you here to harass us more? And Sean's like, let's not get into the nitty-gritty here. Like, don't worry about it.
What's not important is who accused who of partricide.
You mean patricide.
Then what's partricide?
Killing a partridge.
It's a victimless crime.
It is not a victimless crime.
Who's the victim?
The partridge.
I love that back and forth.
I love their back and forth. Also, Team Gus, killing a partridge is not victimless.
Yeah, I'm not pro partridge side.
Alright, so Sean says, yeah, the culprit's not you guys, don't worry about it. And then Mrs. Clayton says, well then who is it?
Don't worry, the family is off the hook. It's another gold-digging yet far less exotic mistress.
So, Jules and Lassie show up, and they're like, yeah, this theory was confirmed when we checked out his recent changes to the will.
Everything in that will is going to the Big Green Hope.
Yeah, he left the bulk of his estate to the Great Green Hope.
The Great Green Hope. Plus, the altimeter was tampered with, and Mrs. Thompson has her pilot's license. I wrote pirate's license. That's okay.
Yeah, our suspect has her pilot's license, so she would have enough knowledge in order to sabotage those controls.
Fist bump.
Yeah, I wrote Sean gets fist bump. And then Mrs. Thompson? I'm confused about her name. Mrs. Thomas walks in, and she's like, what are you guys doing here? And then she's arrested.
I can't believe she would show up to the reading of the will.
And then we get a very quick Mrs. Clayton and Garvin going, my daughter!
My sister?
And then we get the boys running away after another, raised eyebrow from Mrs. Clayton, and more dog sounds.
So they know they're in trouble, and we're on Sean and Mrs. C, and then Sean looks and the camera pans with him, and Gus is already gone.
That is grade A physical comedy with a camera.
I love it.
Oh, man. All right,
Okay.
So we're back at SBPD, and we're in the interrogation room.
Sean was like, in my defense, I didn't realize you were his daughter. I thought you were sleeping with him.
And he's like, hey, but good thing I was wrong. That must make you feel better, because her husband is in there with her.
Sean's like, you called him Clay, not Dad. Let's just agree that this is entirely your fault.
I stopped calling him Dad a long time ago.
Well, then why did you cut Charles off when he came in when we were talking to you?
I have always tried to keep my past from encroaching on the life I've built.
Okay, so what actually happened? He came in and he told her that he wanted to reconcile.
He goes, yeah. And then, I don't know, I overheard him arguing with one of his golf buddies about some investment stuff. But, he said he wanted to give me money. I told him I didn't want his dirty money, and then he left. But I heard the argument.
They're like, one of his golfing buddies, and they head back to the club where they confront Wiswald.
And, Sean has a vision that he argued with Clayton.
And Wiswald was like, before you get into it, here's what happened. The dude lost all of my money.
I noticed it was missing, and I confronted him about it, and he admitted to me that his entire hedge fund is a huge Ponzi scheme.
Stop right there. I refuse to believe that Henry Winkler had anything to do with this.
Gus is like, oh, if the SEC caught wind of that, he'd be out millions, and his investors would get nothing, and all of his assets would get frozen.
Well, Wiswald already lost all of his money. He has already liquidated all of his things, and he's living in a hotel. He's only at the club to keep up appearances.
And he was like, I was going to try and get some money back. I asked him if I could have just the plane, and he withheld it from me. I was going to try to sell it for at least, $5 million, get somewhere.
Sean said, who else knew about this alleged Fonzie scheme?
Well, I've got all the proof and all the paperwork back at my hotel in boxes. I kept that.
I imagine you won't need that for very much longer.
Yeah, head to head. So we're at a restaurant, and it's all gloomy and dim, and Sean's rushing in like, sorry I'm late, and Henry and Abigail are already there.
They start talking about Henry's detective life, and Abigail is surprised that Sean never applied for the academy.
Yeah, Henry's like, I trained him to be a detective, but he decided to become a professional asswipe instead.
Sean said something along the lines of, those comments used to bother me, but I've discovered that no matter who you are and where you come from, fathers and children rarely see eye to eye.
And I was like, you know what? I think it may still be a dig, but it's a very mature thing to say in that situation.
Because Henry toasts to it.
And Abigail's like, I really feel like you guys would communicate more effectively if... And Sean
No. No trying to fix it.
Well, he literally just says, Trump caught prawns. That sounds really sad. He just, like, changes the subject to the menu, and Ab's like, you're right, I'm not gonna, no fixing.
Come on, Sean, let her speak. I want to hear what she has to say, says Henry.
And Sean's like, cool, why not, sweetheart?
Abigail thinks that they would both do a little bit better if they would share their emotions.
Yeah, like, Henry might respect Sean's decisions more if they were, sharing their emotions with each other.
Henry kind of pretends that Henry's in-ish, and Sean says, are you pretending that you've had an emotion since Walker, Texas Ranger was canceled?
But he relents. He's like, okay, fine. Dad, you're in a fiery plane crash and you've got 15 seconds to live. What is the one message that you would want to say that someone could get back to me?
Henry's like, I'm not playing this game.
Okay, cool. There. And Abs concedes, that's kind of a harsh scenario, Sean.
Sean immediately gets a text message from Gus that told him to get to the hotel because Lassie and Juliet are in. Okay.
They're going to go get the Ponzi scheme evidence.
Quick hold.
Yes.
That's the only text message from Gus.
What?
On the screen, there are no previous texts.
Well, even when he gets the next one, that one doesn't show up as a previous text. Like, he gets two in quick succession, but we only ever see one showing. So, it's just a bad fake phoning.
Yes, okay. That's what I wanted to hear.
So Sean is like, yes, I have to run. Dear Abby, Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil is bald. It doesn't even fit.
She's like, yeah, you're not bald. You're just taller than your hair.
And Henry's kind of happy about that and then realizes what she said.
So we're at the hotel. We're in the lobby. Not lobby, the hallway. Lassie and Jules are there. And they're like, Sean, you really better have something here because the case against Nina is really strong.
Sean gives it a big hullabaloo, a big to-do. Like, this is it. This is going to prove everything.
I'm going to share with you new motifs. Gus says he needs motives. And then he's like, fraud, embezzling, subprime time, toxic assets.
That's a thing, right?
So then I wrote something and then Gus is just like, ugh, you're such a child.
Lassiter tries to open the door and Lassiter, or as soon as he gets to the door, it opens. And I'm sorry, I've completely lost my spot in my notes. Oh,
I just wrote, he did. Wiswall dead, on his bed, there's a golf club.
Why does this always happen? We need to start checking first.
So Sean kind of observantly psychs out on a leftover folder because all these boxes are empty, things are scattered, and it says prospectus and then a number. And he's like, hey, do you know what a prospectus is?
Gus says it's probably a file to whatever that Fonzie scheme was.
And the number there must be the registration number for the so-called hedge fund.
So the person came in, killed Wiswald, and then took the evidence.
And Sean psychs back to a number he saw on the shred paper that Charles dumped while they were in the room.
Bum, bum, bum.
At the Green Hope. Back to the country club for the funeral at Waterloo.
Did you notice that the entire family is in maroon?
No.
They are. Not black.
No.
They're all in shades of maroon.
I did not. I just thought it was black. It was a dark color. I wasn't paying much attention. I was like, last scene.
Mrs. C, Garvin, and Mrs. T are all wearing... Nina are all wearing maroon.
Weird.
Yeah. The preacher gets up and is like, oh, if anyone who was close to Warren would like to say something.
And Mrs. C starts to get up, and then Sean is like, spectacle!
He runs up, and he's like, he's talking to me. And he opens up the urn, and he's like, from in here.
Dust in the wind. On we are, dust in the wind.
While he's doing that, he's kind of walking around, and the urn stops right in front of Charles, the husband.
And he's the murderer.
We get a recap.
Nina didn't want that dirty, dirty money, but you did.
He had the extensive knowledge of aircraftery to be able to tamper with the flight, or with the altimeter. Altimeter.
He's like, because apparently, like, everyone in this family, you also fly. And so the altimeter was off by 1,200 feet? And he's like, you confronted him after he left the Great Green Hope, and he was going to change his will back because they had that fight. She turned down his dirty, dirty money.
But Clay refused to listen to him. He was ready to change his will. He had to do something.
Yeah, and then he heard about the Ponzi scheme, and you couldn't let the assets get frozen and the SEC find out about the Ponzi scheme. So
Charles tries to play it all like, oh, no, Nina, I would never do that to you. You know me.
And Nina's like, but you disappeared for hours after my dad left, and you've been shredding all that paper every night.
You deserved that money. We deserved that money. We could have done so much good.
Ew, it's the principle of the thing. Okay, so this is, sorry, I'm smacking stuff. This is what I thought of, it's like, you know, when they say, like, if you live by the blade, you'll die by the blade?
Sure.
You know, in, like, warrior movies, or, like, people who are, like, assassins. It's like, if you live a violent life, you'll meet a violent end.
Ah.
So if you live a greedy life, you meet a greedy end. It's like his greed got him all this dirty money and made him feel the need to make amends. And he was trying to make amends with the dirty money, which wasn't working for him. And then someone else, greedy, came and, like, ended him to try and get all the money. So, like, cyclical.
Oh, that's what you meant by you don't feel so bad for him in the end.
Yeah, like, yes, because he wasn't actually trying to make amends or take responsibility for anything he'd done wrong. He was trying to use his dirty, dirty money to, like, get his daughter to talk to him, and she rightfully still wouldn't. She doesn't want that dirty money.
I want to play devil's advocate here. Your story is very, very probable, and probably most likely, but could it be that, yes, he was greedy, and he didn't want to go to jail, but he wanted to do something good with the money. And so that's why he went to his daughter, to give that money to the Great Green Hope so that she could actually do good with it.
Okay, have you ever heard the story of Dale Carnegie? I think it was Dale. And, oh my god, Frick. Is his name Frick? The two Pittsburgh guys. They were at war over the iron and the coke, and the biography of the two of them and their feud is called "I'll Meet You in Hell." And at the end of his life, Carnegie was doing all these good things with his money, and Frick actually said he can try to buy his way into heaven at this late stage in his life all he wants. I'll meet that son of a bitch in hell.
Oh.
Like, so even though Carnegie tried to extend, like, the olive branch in the end, like, Frick was like, we're both the same. Nothing's changed. No matter what you do. See ya, bro. Huh. And so, like, that's the lens in which I see it right now, and I totally see your point.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, you still had already robbed people with the money you were trying to put towards the good in the end. That was going to get frozen in your assets anyway. Like,
after Sean finishes the arrest, Charles gets picked up. Nina goes to sit with the family, and we hear a bunch of applauding. And Sean's like, "Oh no, I'm just doing my job." The applauding is not for him, everyone.
No, it is for the golfer in the background.
Anyway, Gus feels him, said good job, and gave him a fist bump. And then Sean starts to cough because he might have just breathed in some dead guy.
So, the very, very last scene, Henry's house, Sean walks in and he's like, hey, the game's on. Have a seat.
Sean apologizes for his behavior at the restaurant because he's happy that even though they may not always get along, they have still never tried to kill one another.
He's like, yeah, we're not that messed up. And Henry says, apology accepted.
Hey, and I've got an answer to that question you asked me last night.
Yeah, the whole 15 seconds to express. I would use it to tell you. I would want you to understand.
Sean looks at his watch and he goes, "Oh, time's up. Bye, Dad," and leaves.
And then, in the end, Henry goes, "That I love you."
I just wanted to say I love you.
And like, Sean knows. But the fact that Henry can't come out and say it, what is that?
So, correct me, because I might be very, very wrong, but Henry has told Sean that he loves him before.
He's told him he's proud of him.
There was no love?
I don't remember now.
I kind of feel like it was there at some point.
I mean, we know it. They both know it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm on Team Henry right now. Henry was hubbing and hawing about that, saying that, but like you said, they both know that that love is there, and the statement like we've never tried to kill one another. Not only have they not tried to kill one another, but they've both actively worked to save the other one.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So,
like, it's not even a question. Like, I'm there. Always. I'm there. And I think showing up the way Henry always has to Dad speaks volumes in action more than words. Like, I mean, it's a beautiful thing to hear. Words of affirmation are very important, but not everyone expresses things the same way.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, there is one part in the episode earlier where Sean said something like, "Ooh, dads are a touchy subject for me." And I'm just like, dude, okay, you and your dad had a not so great relationship. A lot of that was your fault.
A lot of it was a misunderstanding about the divorce and the way he internalized it.
Right. But since then, Henry has saved his butt on many occasions, has let him steal his truck, his boat, his house, his blah, 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 blah. Henry has taken care of his friends. Henry has taken care of strangers.
And always had a non-contentious relationship with Madeline.
Yeah.
He doesn't hold anything against her. They don't fight. We've never heard of them fighting. It just like, go to therapy, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you. That's where I was going. I'm so happy you went there.
I'm so sorry.
No, that we both are on the same page there.
Oh, and I was wrong. It wasn't Dale Carnegie. That's a totally different person. It was Andrew Carnegie and Henry Clay Frick. And this is the book Meet You in Hell. It's a very interesting book. I recommend the audio.
I will put that on my audio list. Although I don't agree with Frick. Just I want it on the record that I don't agree with him. But
no, but like their partnership led to like trouble, and like they were partners for a long time, and then it got contentious, and there was a steelworker strike because it's very dangerous work and it needed to be unionized. Like it's Gilded Age industrial America in a very interesting way. And so as far as nonfiction, I definitely recommend it. No one's paying me to do so.
Not a sponsor, but could be. Bum, 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 bum. Books. I was expecting the muffins in this episode.
No. I think that's the next episode. It's the one with the Catholics. Catholics and muffins go together.
Okay.
You know, like country clubs and muffins go together.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. This episode I don't think does a lot for the plot line whatsoever.
No, really not.
I like it. It's a good episode.
We need more rich mummies.
Yeah. She just plays that part so well.
Oh,
and I don't know. It's just perfect. Everything about that was perfect.
I need to read. She needs to write a memoir because I need to know more about her. Like, how does she? she fully embodies the rich mommy all
She
the time,
does.
no matter what age she is when she's acting. That is her character.
Isn't she the good wife?
No. I think it was Margulies.
Time to fact check myself.
She is a 15-time Primetime Emmy Award nominee, winning once in 95 for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series for her role as Marianne Thorpe in the sitcom Sybil.
Yes.
Ooh, she is 71. Girlfriend is looking fab.
I mean, in her defense, she would have been 61 when this was recorded, but still.
She's been in The Good Fight, The Good Wife.
The Good Fight.
There we go. Bad Moms Christmas.
That's what I was thinking. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Love her.
Good episode. Solid episode. Nothing to write home about besides our beautiful guest star, but yeah, good episode.
I don't know why I said Imelda Staunton. That's a correct me. It wasn't Imelda Staunton in Mamma Mia with the two of them. It was Julie Walters. What am I thinking? I'm crazy.
You're the movie woman, so when you say things, I'm just like, yeah.
I'm very sorry. In Mamma Mia, it is Meryl, and it is Christine, and it is Julie, and they are Donna and the Dynamos?
Donna and the Dynamos.
Okay, yes. Yes.
That's a good movie. That's also just a feel-good movie.
So
put that on your list if you haven't. Like, if you need a movie to make you, like, laugh and cry. Like, that's a good one.
My emotional support pop song is Waterloo by ABBA. So
I would say that my favorite song from that particular movie is Does Your Mother Know? And it's her song.
It's her song.
Yeah.
That's a very Alexis song.
Like, it's just fiery. I love it.
Oh, so good. Okay, we need to watch that now.
Yeah. Okay. So back to our list of other things to podcast about. On that note, I am Alexis and a laptop, preferably one made of red vines.
And I'm Kaylee. Do you know what they say about a man with a large carbon footprint?
And this has been
To the Blueberry! Psych out.